Good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News, the show that gets you kick-started early in the morning on day's top national and international stories. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor with you, and today morning we'll look at Delhi's the Chief Minister designate Arvind Kejriwal's possible team as he prepares for the swearing-in tomorrow. We also take a look at what the latest AAP figures mean ahead of the general budget. But first, the headlines. Jammu and Kashmir could have its new government soon as BJP and PDP finalize common minimum program. Announcement likely next week. Arvind Kejriwal likely to head a 7-member AAP Cabinet with Manish Sisodia as his deputy. Party sources say Somnath Bharti and Rakhi Birla may have to sit out. Swine flu claims 24 more lives in the last 24 hours. A Swiss woman is among the victims in Rajasthan. Overall toll in India inches towards 450 this year. Inflation figures inch upwards for January. Industrial production falls drastically in December. And the Minsk summit clinches ceasefire deal to end fighting in Ukraine. Four-nation talks decide to implement truce from Sunday. Well, our top story, Jammu and Kashmir could have its new government soon. PDP and BJP are inching towards an agreement that helps bridge the gap between them on issues that are key for the state, including Article 370. The informal parleys were intensified amid speculation that PDP patron Mufti Mohammad Saeed will soon meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi for sealing the deal. Now, according to sources, Mufti Mohammad Saeed will be the Chief Minister, while BJP as the junior partner will get the post of Deputy Chief Minister. Now, the partnership is to be announced next week, after which the coalition will approach the governor to stake its claim to form the government. The two parties jointly contested the recent Rajya Sabha polls, winning 3 out of the 4 seats.
कॉमन मिनिमम प्रोग्राम जल्दी बन जाए, इस प्रयास में हम है। मैं पहले भी कहता था, आज भी कह रहा हूं, कोई डेडलाइन लेकर ये काम होता नहीं है। मुद्दों की बात है, मुद्दों पर एक सहमति बननी पड़ती है, वह प्रक्रिया चल रही है, जल्दी समाप्त करने का हम प्रयास कर रहे हैं।
And news from the national capital now, and Arvind Kejriwal is likely to lead a 7-member Aam Aadmi Party cabinet with 4 new faces. A day before Kejriwal's swearing-in ceremony, now speculations are rife over the structure of his new cabinet. According to sources, it could include Kejriwal's close aide Manish Sisodia as the Deputy Chief Minister. Party sources said that there will be no woman representation in the new cabinet. Now, AAP has submitted a list of the 7 cabinet ministers to Lieutenant Governor Najib Young yesterday. Now, sources say that Rakhi Birla, Saurabh Bharadwaj, Somnath Bharti and Girish Soni, who were the earlier cabinet in 2013, are unlikely to make it this time. Meanwhile, preparations are on for the swearing-in ceremony of Arvind Kejriwal on the 14th, that is tomorrow. He has invited all the union ministers, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi will miss it owing to previous engagements. The two leaders yesterday met, where Kejriwal brought back the demand for Delhi's statehood. Here are the details.
An eagerly watched 15-minute chai pe charcha between the Prime Minister and the man who nearly managed to wipe the BJP slate clean in the Delhi Assembly. The Prime Minister, however, turned down the swearing-in invite, citing prior engagements. Even at his first meeting, Kejriwal brought up the issue of full statehood for Delhi, reportedly calling the move a golden opportunity with a majority government now in place.
हमने उनसे रिक्वेस्ट किया कि ये दोनों पूर्ण बहुमत वाली सरकारों को मिलकर अब दिल्ली की एक बहुत बड़ा इशू जो पूर्ण राज्य का मुद्दा है वो सॉल्व करना चाहिए और दिल्ली के लोगों को एक पूर्ण राज्य का दर्जा देकर उनको पूरी सुविधाएं मिल सकें, ऐसी व्यवस्था हमको मिलकर बनानी चाहिए। प्रधानमंत्री जी ने इस बारे में हमें भरोसा दिया है कि वो इस पर पूरा विचार करेंगे।
The centre's support will be critical for Kejriwal to fulfill many of his mega promises, and separate statehood is seen as the most difficult of them all. The BJP spokesperson says the centre will be willing to take up the age-old issue with the new Delhi government.
This issue of statehood has been pending for several decades. So I think there are a lot of issues to be discussed and resolved. Let the state government first be constituted and then let them make their own proposals, which can be discussed with the central government.
For the oath-taking ceremony at the Ramlila Maidan on Saturday, Aam Aadmi Party has also invited all Union Cabinet Ministers, the BJP's 7 Delhi MPs and Kiran Bedi. Elaborate preparations are underway for the event that will coincide with the day Kejriwal quit office exactly a year ago.
शपथ समारोह में आम पब्लिक भी आएगी और चूंकि आम पब्लिक का नंबर काफ़ी ज़्यादा होगा तो इसलिए हमने जो मुनासिब इंतजाम किए हैं उसमें सुरक्षा के भी रहेंगे, क्राउड कंट्रोल के भी रहेंगे, ट्रैफिक का इंतजाम होगा, लोकल पुलिस का इंतजाम होगा, सिक्योरिटी का इंतजाम होगा, पीसीआर की गाड़ियाँ रहेंगी.
In the backdrop of the resounding victory, speculation also gathers steam on the constitution of Kejriwal's cabinet. Kejriwal's close aide Manish Sisodia is reportedly set to be named Deputy Chief Minister. Not just in Delhi, around the country, Arvind Kejriwal is the man of the moment. His every move will be closely watched. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
And in some other news, at least 24 people succumbed to the swine flu virus on Thursday, taking the death toll across the country to almost 450 this year. Among the 24 victims was a Swiss woman who died at a hospital in Jodhpur. Rajasthan also recorded 12 more deaths yesterday. At least 130 people have died in the state so far this year to the H1N1 virus. Now, 8 more people died in Gujarat as well, 2 in Punjab and 1 person in Uttar Pradesh. Several fresh cases were also reported in at least 4 states. Gujarat reported 123 fresh cases, while 39 cases were reported in Telangana.
विदेशी नागरिक महिला को हमारे यहाँ कल भेजा गया था जिनको निमोनिया की शिकायत थी. सारे ट्रीटमेंट के बावजूद भी उनकी सुबह 6 बजे के आसपास मौत हो गई थी. हमने ये सारी सूचना जिला प्रशासन को दे दी है और उसके साथ ही हम अपने अस्पताल के स्तर से और अस्पताल पुलिस चौकी के स्तर से उनकी एम्बेसी से संपर्क करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. वहां से परमिशन आने पर उनका पोस्टमार्टम किया जाएगा.
And retail inflation has accelerated in January after shifting to a new base year for calculating prices. The figures inched up to 5.11% from December's figures of 4.28%. Retail inflation figures are still way below the RBI target, bolstering the prospects of further interest rate cuts in the coming days. But the industrial production growth has slipped to 1.7%. Reflecting sluggishness in the economy, the industrial production growth has slipped to 1.7% in December month-on-month, while inflation rose to 5.11% in January. The new inflation figures were calculated by the Central Statistical Organization by changing the CPI base year from 2009-10 to 2011-12. It also attached more weight for services like education and health and broadened the item basket. Food inflation stood at 6.13%, fuel inflation 3.74% and clothing and footwear was 6.15%.
CPI combined is in January 15 5.11%, which was in December final number is 4.28%. Okay, CPI urban is 4.96%. Earlier number, December number was 4.50%. And CPI rural is January number is 5.25% and December number is 4.16%.
Food price inflation was higher than non-food inflation, so that is one reason for the slightly lower inflation. Secondly, the small lower is also because geometric mean gives a slightly lower inflation than arithmetic mean. But compared January inflation, whichever method you imply, January inflation compared to December inflation is slightly higher.
The index of industrial production for the month of December slowed down to 1.7% as against 3.8% in the previous month. Manufacturing and electricity grew at 2.1% and 4.8%, while mining recorded a negative 3.2% growth. However, the growth in factory output was higher as compared to December 2013, when it expanded by 0.1%. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Alright, let's try to understand what these figures actually mean. Joining me for a chat this morning is Mr. Akash Jindal, who is an economist. Thank you so much, Mr. Jindal, for joining us here on Rajya Sabha TV.
You're welcome.
Mr. Jindal, first up, of course, what do these figures mean just ahead of the general budget?
See, what do the figures show is that, simply speaking, economy is not doing too well. Firstly, IIP means Index of Industrial Production, that our industrial production is not high, not good which it should have been. Now industrial production is very important. One, because it's important for our GDP growth.
Yes.
Secondly, if industrial production is up, we'll have lots and lots of taxes which can reduce our deficit and which can then the money could have been used for welfare of the people.
Yes.
Thirdly, had industrial production been up, industrial production had it been up, it would have meant more and more jobs for people. So that definitely is not a good data to have industrial production up and down and inflation being up.
Right.
So on both fronts we need to do lots and lots of things.
All right.
Now one thing more, now inflation is up when we have crude oil prices down. I mean that could be the best situation for inflation, that was the best backdrop where inflation could have been reduced, because till now we have always been saying that see our inflation is high because crude prices have been high. Everything ultimately gets transported on crude. Now crude oil around 15-20 days ago they had come to as low as $46 a barrel. Now also they are $55 to $58 a barrel. So I think there are lots which needs to be done.
Now you're saying that obviously the figures are showing sluggishness in the economy. So just ahead of the general budget, what should be kept in mind for the finance minister? What proactive steps really the government needs to take?
See, firstly, if you talk about industrial production, now how to increase industrial production? I think the steps which need to be taken is we have to actually get results in the Make in India campaign. The Make in India campaign is a very nice initiative launched by the government, promoted, this is a nice concept of our Prime Minister, but till now we have not seen much results, we have not seen much money coming in. So basically we have to have the foreigners investing into our country, that way our IIP can go up. Now, if we can have foreigners invest into our country and if we can actually implement the Make in India concept, that would be a win-win situation for the country.
Okay.
Because firstly, we'll have a lot of foreign exchange coming into the country. Then secondly, what would happen is, once we are setting up factories, once we are setting up industries, now industries, they have to be set up in remote areas, villages, because they need lots and lots of land. So the advantage of setting industries, huge industries in remote area villages is, firstly, when we set up an industry, lots of our BPL brothers and sisters in those remote areas would get jobs. You need lots of workers, you need lots of people, truckers, security guards, lot of manpower to put up a factory. So our BPL brothers and sisters there, they'll get employment. Once the factory is put up, after that you need lot of people who are semi-skilled by having 2 months, 3 months training, which could be done in the factory itself. Then lot of unskilled workers, security guards, truckers, people who have to cook for them, who have to pack. So lots. So that what would it mean is, I would go beyond IIP. It would mean inclusive growth. That is something which all the parties and the government is always promoting. So I think that's very important. Secondly, in case we can have higher manufacturing with this Make in India concept, what it would mean is more and more taxes. Now it's very simple. In case we have more taxes, what it would mean that our deficit would get reduced and government is targeting a lesser deficit. Once we have lesser deficit, then the government would have more money to spend for welfare. Food, shelter, clothing. I would rather include that these days essentials also mean money which has to be spent on health and education. These are also priorities. So a reduced deficit would mean more and more money in the hands of the government to do welfare schemes for our underprivileged brothers and sisters. So I think that's very important, that a nice concept which we have launched, Make in India, we should take it to the implementation stage, where I actually would be happy if I see the money actually coming in, going into the factory, which can increase our per capita income, increase our GDP, and ultimately we can target inclusive growth, which everybody in India is positive about, and that's the thing which we need.
So the idea should be to focus on Make in India. But talking about RBI here, now RBI recently had reduced the interest rate. Do you think some more measures should be in the offing from the RBI side as well?
Yes, I endorse you up to a point. I would rather request the RBI that going ahead there should be more interest rate cuts. I would request the RBI to cut the rate by at least 50 basis points, or in simple terms saying 0.5% going ahead, perhaps in one stage or two stage. This much reduction I would expect. Why so? Because in case the rates of interest are reduced, borrowing money for putting up an industry would be more convenient for an industrialist. It would be more viable for him. So, because see, we have seen in the domestic sector also, domestic industrialists also have not been putting too much of money in the past 3-4 years. Not much projects have been there. So, once the cost of capital is reduced, there would be incentive for people to set up factories and industries. Secondly, now coming on to the consumer angle, in case rates of interest are reduced, what would happen is people would be motivated to buy more cars, more bikes, more houses, because we know these days major purchases of cars, houses, bikes are done on interest. So if one car is purchased, lots and lots of sectors, lots and lots of industries get positively impacted, because somebody would be manufacturing tires, somebody would be manufacturing accessories, somebody would be supplying metals, somebody would be ultimately fixing and repairing. Similarly, in case of a house, so many people, as I explained, would get employment. So on one hand, the industrialists would be motivated to put up an industry. On the second hand, consumer would be going to the market, which would mean more and more industrialization, more and more opportunities, of course, there is one thing which is being said, that in case interest gets reduced, perhaps inflation would increase. But I'll tell you, I have done a lot of research on that. That's not the case. Because what happens is, in India, the inflation is not an inflation which is demand-based inflation. Because see, by increasing the rate of interest, what we can do is, we can perhaps compress the demand.
I also wanted to ask you a simple question, but very shortly, we don't have much time. Just there's a talk of there's a change in the way in which the calculation is done this time. Do you think that is actually posing a very rosy picture of the economy? Just
no, I'm not against the way it has been calculated. The basis of calculation has been changed.
Yes.
But I'm not against particularly GDP, if you say. I am not against that, because see, there are certain things which have to be taken in care whenever you take an evaluation tool or the basis of calculation. So I don't think there is anything wrong on the basis of what we have calculated the figure. But yes, there is a lot which can be done with the economy. We can increase our production. We can reduce our inflation. The current BJP government is making efforts. So I would appreciate this government for making effort, but efforts need to be taken at a faster pace, and it's very much possible that we can increase IIP and reduce inflation. And one thing more, I'll just take 10 seconds. We are being, what is being predicted is that India would be the fastest growing economy in the world by 2016-17. So we are already on the way to that. The only thing the government which is on the nice track, needs to just accelerate and focus more on implementation, then both the results can very well be achieved.
We are on course. It's just that the government needs to take more proactive measures. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Jindal, for joining us here this morning and putting things in perspective for us. Thank you so much. All right, we'll take a very short break here. Coming up ahead, a US cop has been arrested on charges of assaulting an Indian in Alabama. That and much more after a short break. Stay with us.
साइंस की खबरें हो या तकनीकी उलझन।
नमस्कार, विज्ञान और तकनीकी से जुड़ी खबरों के साप्ताहिक कार्यक्रम ज्ञान विज्ञान में आपका स्वागत है।
विज्ञान की फिल्में हो या फिर अन्वेषण।
जर्मनी में भारतीय मूल के वैज्ञानिक और उनकी टीम ने हृदय रोग और फेफड़ों के रोग से संबंधित शोध में एक बड़ी सफलता हासिल की है।
वैज्ञानिकों से मुलाकात, सब कुछ एक साथ। देखिए हर हफ्ते ज्ञान विज्ञान सिर्फ राज्यसभा टीवी पर।
Welcome back after the break. You're watching the Breakfast Bulletin. Well, more national news and updates in nationwide now. The centre has set up a 3-member special investigation team for fresh investigation into the 1984 anti-Sikh riots in Delhi. The SIT will be headed by Pramod Asthana, with the former district judge Rakesh Kapoor and additional DCP in Delhi Police Kumar Gyanesh as its members. The team will submit its report within 6 months. The SIT on black money has approached ICIJ, a global collective of investigative journalists, to obtain the full data on Indians holding bank accounts in HSBC Geneva. Sources say that the SIT has sent its communication requesting full details about the bank account numbers and addresses.
The Mumbai police have registered an FIR against 14 people, including the organizers of AIB Roast Show and actors who participated in it. They have been booked for criminal conspiracy, a serious criminal charge and a non-bailable offence. Among those charged are Bollywood celebrities like Karan Johar, Ranveer Singh, Deepika Padukone, Alia Bhatt and Arjun Kapoor. And now let's take a look at what all is lined up for the day ahead. By-polls are being held for Bongan Lok Sabha constituency in West Bengal and one assembly constituency each in Arunachal Pradesh, Goa, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh. By-poll to Bongaon Lok Sabha seat was necessitated following the death of sitting TMC MP Kapil Krishna Thakur last year. The Election Commission has made elaborate arrangements to ensure free and fair polls. Home Minister Rajnath Singh will be in Imphal today to review law and order situation in the state. He will be accompanied by MOS Home Kiran Rijiju. The Home Minister will hold a series of talks with the Chief Minister and the Chief Secretary PC Longkula among other officials. He will also visit Tripura on Saturday. President Pranab Mukherjee will conduct the annual opening of the Mughal Gardens of the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the Udyanotsav ceremony today. The world-famous gardens will remain open for general public from 14th of Feb to 15th of March between 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. It is the concluding day of the 5th India Region Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Conference in Panaji. Lok Sabha Speaker Sumitra Mahajan had inaugurated the two-day conference. She asked the presiding officers of the state legislative assemblies and councils to play a pivotal role in strengthening the country's democracy. And a US cop has been arrested for assaulting an Indian in the state of Alabama in the United States earlier this month. FBI will be conducting a probe to check if these were federal violations after the victim filed a suit. And now he has been left temporarily paralyzed after the assault. The incident drew reactions from the top level in both the governments. One of the two police officers who allegedly assaulted Indian citizen Suresh Bhai Patel in Alabama has been arrested. FBI will be conducting a probe into the matter to find out if there were any federal violations in the incident. The cop faces assault charges after Patel filed a suit after the incident left him temporarily paralyzed. The family claimed he was wrongfully assaulted by the cops.
वो घर पे गया था, फिर पैर अगर गए होंगे तो घूमने निकल गए, घर के आंगन में घूम रहे थे और इसके तीसरे एक मकान वाले ने फोन कर दिया और पुलिस आ गई. पुलिस ने स्टॉप बोला, स्टॉप कर हो गया और बोची से पकड़ के मारा. इसने खून निकला नाक से और पुलिस ने हॉस्पिटल में दाखिल कर दिया.
The MEA promised to take up the matter with the US authorities to get justice to Patel. US also assured to look into the matter.
As soon as we got to know from the media about this sad incident, our Consulate General in Atlanta got in touch with the Madison police chief there and sought his intervention in the matter. He has ordered an inquiry into it, and he will share the outcome of that inquiry in a transparent manner.
The Secretary and the State Department certainly express our strong condolences to the family for everything that he has been through. This is being handled by local authorities, and certainly we would address any concerns through private diplomatic channels.
The incident occurred on the morning of 6th of February while walking down the sidewalk a day after he arrived in the United States. In the video, Patel is seen walking quietly in a sidewalk. Two police officers are seen approaching Patel and asking him questions. Soon, one of the police officers, later identified as Parker, is seen violently throwing Patel on the ground and threatening him not to leave. It is at this time it appears Patel was paralyzed, apparently by shock. Moments later, when two police officers try to walk him, Patel is not able to stand on his own. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. And the all-night negotiations in Belarusian capital of Minsk have finally yielded a ceasefire agreement on the Ukraine crisis. A deal aimed at ending the fighting in eastern Ukraine could pave way for a ceasefire that will come into effect from 15th of February. After 17 hours of marathon talks in Belarusian capital Minsk, Ukraine and Russia finally agreed to a peace roadmap. The all-night negotiation session involving leaders of Ukraine, Russia, France and Germany led to a ceasefire agreement that will be implemented on 15th of February. Under the agreement, heavy weapons will be pulled out from front lines and all prisoners will be released.
Это не самая лучшая ночь в моей жизни, но утро, на мой взгляд, доброе, потому что, несмотря на все сложности переговорного процесса, нам все-таки удалось договориться о главном. Кстати говоря, почему так долго шли согласования, я думаю, это связано с тем, что, к сожалению, киевские власти до сих пор отказываются от прямых контактов с представителями.
Ми пішли на жодні ультиматуми і чітко провели позицію, що припинення вогню оголошується в будь-яких перемовинах.
Pro-Russian rebels have welcomed the deal. However, there are some key issues that remain to be settled. Ukraine will establish control of the international border by the end of the year. There's also no clarity on the status of the Baltsev, the railway hub in the east that's been the center of the fighting in recent days. All sides see the deal as a glimmer of hope. The outcome is also expected to influence decisions at an EU summit in Brussels on Thursday. The renewed commitment to respect Ukraine's sovereignty could reflect in a softer line towards Moscow. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And more international news and updates in World Wrap. Two Al Jazeera journalists jailed in Egypt were freed on bail on Thursday after more than 400 days. Mohammed Fahmy was released on bail while Bahir Mohammed was released without bail. However, an Egyptian court said that the case against them was still pending. A third Al Jazeera reporter, Australian Peter Greste, was freed on 1st of February and he was deported. The US Senate voted to confirm Ashton Carter as the next Secretary of Defense. He won the vote almost unanimously with 5 against and 93 votes in favor. The former Deputy Defense Secretary will become US President Barack Obama's 4th Defense Chief. He succeeds Chuck Hagel, who announced his resignation last year amid pressure. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has said that a compromise is possible in the standoff with Greece over its bailout terms. Behind-the-scenes negotiations resumed in Brussels hours after the Euro area finance minister failed to reach a joint conclusion. Greece opposes extending its bailout deal, saying that it is damaging its economy. South Africa's parliament saw chaotic scenes on Thursday as leftist MPs scuffled with security during a key annual speech by President Jacob Zuma. It was the president's first State of the Nation speech since his re-election last May, but he was repeatedly interrupted by the economic freedom fighters who demanded answers over a corruption scandal. The Speaker of the Parliament then ordered their removal, prompting scuffles. And the ICC Cricket World Cup opened yesterday with a colourful ceremony at Christchurch in New Zealand and Melbourne in Australia. The 11th edition of the World Cup got a kickstart with a high-budget show that was beamed live to 2.5 billion people across more than 220 countries. Here's a look.
There was a carnival atmosphere throughout the program that began with 4 giant games of backyard cricket played by 80 school children. Huge crowds cheered the white-clad kids. A booming fireworks display was also part of the biggest event that Christchurch is hosting ever since an earthquake devastated the city centre in February 2011. ICC Chief David Richardson unveiled the Cricket World Cup trophy. The show at Christchurch saw guest appearances by New Zealand cricket legends Richard Headley and Stephen Fleming and current captain Brendan McCullum.
Yeah, well, the opening match, of course, is this Saturday, Sri Lanka, New Zealand. And then on the 21st of February, we have Pakistan and the West Indies. And then on the 23rd of February, an interesting clash between England and Scotland. A little bit of history there.
And yeah, it's nice to be able to stay at home during the first game as well. I've already got 3 kids, so most people would say I spend too much time in my own bed anyway. But yeah, it's good to be here, and we're looking forward to the game.
A similar ceremony took place at Melbourne's Sydney Mere Music Bowl to declare the tournament open in Australia. Cricket Australia chairman Wally Edwards unveiled the World Cup.
Even Lillian Thompson made 100, and Australia got close actually in fading light. The match didn't finish till 8:45 in the evening.
New Zealand and Australia are together hosting the event for the first time in 23 years. Matches will be played in 14 host cities across the two countries over the next 6 weeks. New Zealand take on Sri Lanka at Hagley Oval Ground in the first match tomorrow, while co-host Australia will take on England. Defending champions India will open the campaign against arch rivals Pakistan on Sunday. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
All right, well, that's all in this edition of Breakfast News. Thanks for watching and have a great day ahead.